Shemai friendly, hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Anwin for anyone who's new here, and let's get back into building in Planet Zoo. And today we're continuing in the Africa Park Zoo with a Meerkat Habitat. I thought it was about time we get back into doing an actual Africa Pack animal instead of just an animal from the African continent. And I want to do something with the terrain, and I picked a spot on the map that was already kind of raised so I could dig into that and create like a little meerkat maze. I wanted the tunnel part to have some like peepholes for the guests. That's kind of similar to what I did for the Chinese pangolin habitat in my Southeast Asian zoo. I will put that up in the iCards if you haven't seen that one. It's kind of like a similar concept where I wanted to do like an underground viewing area. And I knew when meerkats make their little burrows underground, they have lots of different like entry and exit points to keep them safe. So they always have a place to escape if one of the like entrance points gets spotted by a predator and they can't escape from one hole. There'll always be like another place for them to be able to escape. So that's what I wanted to do with this as well, is to have lots of different connecting points so they can enter and exit out of different parts of the little burrow. That's why I kind of wanted it to be like a little meerkat maze. And it would also give me another point for like a viewing area for the guests as well. And it feels really narrow and small, these little tunnels I've made, but if you get to the end where what I call my Pretties, where I show you how the animals actually walk around this area, the meerkats are so small that it's not actually that narrow, these tunnels. They actually feel quite big when you're going around as a little meerkat. And what's quite fun as well, even though like we've made this tunnel for them, they will still dig their own little tunnels in this tunnel too. I always find it fun playing around with terrain like this because it's quite satisfying in a way. It's like playing with clay or like Play-Doh. It's almost like those satisfying videos that you see like little TikToks of with like the kinetic sand, and they shape and mold the kinetic sand and then like chop it up. That's kind of how terrain manipulation feels for me. Speaking of TikTok though, it feels like YouTube's really gone in on trying to get TikTok sort of feel to videos with like those YouTube shorts, but I do find myself scrolling through them when I'm bored and I've got like a little time to myself. I found this one creator called Hood Nature. There was like a secret that zookeepers don't want you to know, and I'm kind of like I got hooked since then. I swear I've learned more about animals from Hood Nature than I have from this game, and that says something. Planet Zoo's kind of family friendly, isn't it? And Hood Nature is not. I know there was one about meerkats. If you see a zookeeper coming out of a meerkat habitat, ask them to show you their scars because they definitely have some, and it's like, oh. But they look so cute. They can't be that mean, can they? Surely. Checking whether the meerkats can get around all of the different tunnels, and they can straight away. I was really happy about that, but I didn't want them to be able to get on top of the burrows. I wanted them to stay to like the ground level a little bit more, so I needed to mess around with the terrain a little bit more, make the sides of this hill a little bit more sheer. I don't know whether I've got the word right now. I always like doubt myself. I say something, I'm like surely, but then it's like And because I have such a large habitat anyway, like I can afford to miss out on that space on top of the hill anyway, because I've dug so much space inside the hill, and I wanted to encourage them to actually like go into that as well. Of course, I wanted to like line some rocks over that like opening to kind of reinforce it, I guess. I don't really like how the terrain kind of forms sometimes either, like it kind of looks a little odd, so I wanted to add a few rocks in to take some of the same textures out, I guess. And I really like using these flat rock pieces to give a little texture to the floor as well. I like using the same biome rock type, so it blends in but it also gives it more texture too. And I thought this like flat area here was a little plain looking, but the meerkats don't really like long grass, so I couldn't like vary the terrain at all in this area, and I wanted like this part to look interesting too, because I have put like windows in this area for the guests. I didn't want this just to be like really plain. So I use this grass. I really like this one because it's got like white tips to it, so it's not all one colour. And I placed that around, lowering it into the terrain a little bit so it wasn't like super long, because like I said, the meerkats are tiny, just to give a little bit of a variation to the ground. And the meerkats can kind of like hide in amongst this grass, so it'll give them like more coverage, I guess. And when I was looking through my pictures from when I went to Folly Farm, which is like a very small zoo in West Wales, I saw on my photos from the Meerkat Habitat that they had like rocks that they could perch on top of as well. So I put really small rocks around by that like rocky area there for them to like climb on top of and look out for things. And now I've sorted out the majority of the habitat itself. I wanted to focus more on what the guests will see from those underground viewing areas. I wanted to make something a little bit interesting for the center of this area, because there's only 2 little windows. I probably could have added another window, but I wanted to do like an education board, but like a custom one, and to tie in some of the other habitats in this area of the zoo, well, pretty much everywhere, because I love these wood pieces. I'm actually using them for like a really large education board. I wanted to add a fun fact on this board for the guests to read. I know they technically don't actually speak English. I can't remember what the language is called though. I know on the first career scenario, Bernie says what language they speak. I might find like a little clip.
Ah, heyo ad hematu. Yeah, Oh, sorry about that. I have a habit of slipping back into the Planko language.
But I really like the fact that the teeth and front claws of the meerkat are adapted for digging, and it can close its ears and nose to prevent dirt from entering them. It kind of stuck with me because it's like, we can't close our nose and ears. You can sort of move your nostrils, but can you imagine being able to close your ear holes? That would be great. I hate water getting in my ears. That is like a big pet peeve of mine. I hate having water in my ears. But none of the lettering was small enough to fit on this education board that I created. And I didn't really like how the editable signs looked either, and I actually used the little tiles that came with the Africa pack. I knew I'd wanted to use these for something that wasn't tiling, but I wasn't sure yet. I knew I really liked them because they were super small, but even these were actually kind of too big for the lettering, so I had to get really creative. As you can see, I'm using like the edge of the tile for the main part of the lettering, and then when I want it to be slightly smaller than the edge of the tile itself, I'm using like the corner, so I've put it like diagonally. And this is when I realized that I can't do the whole of the fun fact, so I had to get a little bit creative. I'm not sure how much I will actually cut out of this making these letterings, because I think it took me over 2 hours to create my little message, like my custom font. And I know there's like loads of custom fonts that you can get off the workshop, but sometimes it's really difficult to be able to get something that's exactly the size that you want it. It's not really easy to see what size certain things are on the workshop, because there's no like comparison to something. I would have liked something like the actual lettering from game, because we all know what that looks like, next to the font that you've made. I downloaded a couple and some of them were too small, some of them are too big, so I just gave up and played around with it and made my own. I grouped every letter separately to the board itself so I could duplicate the letters afterwards, and it still ended up taking me over 2 hours to do like one sentence, and it was kind of a short sentence as well. I might put this little sign separate to the habitat as well on Steam Workshop, just in case you want to add it into your zoo, because it's like super fiddly. So I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to like create your own. Some of the letters that were probably the trickiest to create as well were the ones that were supposed to be like round, like M's, and what was the other one? Oh my goodness, S. You have no idea how long I stared at the letter S on the lettering for the like original Planet Zoo lettering, just to try and figure out how I would make that out of flat pieces. It's gotta be the hardest thing for me, was trying to figure out how to do a letter S, and I'm still not quite sure whether I was actually successful with the S. I guess it's not like super accessible because I made it out of something from a pack, not from like a base game object. But if you do like the way I've created this font, I guess I could try and do every letter of the alphabet. I don't think I quite got there with just this one sentence, but I could go back and make the whole alphabet for this font. Some people though are super talented on the Steam Workshop, and they've made like pixelated lettering out of the art shapes objects. There was this one and the writing was like super tiny and I had no idea how they did it, and then when I picked it up it was actually a triangle, like a pyramid, and they'd used the point of the pyramid to create like pixelated letters. I couldn't imagine how long that took them to create, because this took me so long to do. I couldn't imagine how long it took them to create those little letters. It was like so cool though. I'm really impressed with some people's creativity in this game. So yeah, I changed the sentence around a little bit to make it a little bit more concise, so I could actually fit everything onto this board. So I changed it to the meerkat can close its ears and nose to prevent dirt from entering them. And I used like the little meerkat sign as well on the side, so it kind of looks like the meerkat is speaking, I guess. But I'm super proud of myself. This is like the first time I've ever played around with objects like this and tried to make my own font. I really like it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're on to the Pretties now with the little meerkats. They're just absolutely adorable. And you can see that even though I lowered the grass down quite a lot into the ground, they can hide quite nicely in the little tufts of grass. And they just look so small. Like, I felt like I made a tiny habitat for them. Even though I thought these tunnels were super narrow, they're really not. The meerkats are so tiny, they're so cute. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did you like my custom education board? And of course, as always, leave me your suggestions of what kinds of animals you would like me to build a habitat for in this zoo. So we've only really got one habitat animal, which is the fennec fox, and the exhibit animal, the sacred scarab beetle, left from the Africa pack to do now. I'm a little stuck on what to do with the exhibit animals for this one, because this has felt really open and natural, and the exhibits themselves are just really clunky and just big black boxes. I'm really stuck with what to do for that. So if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments. That would be amazing. And I'm gonna leave it off there. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, and if you haven't already and you would like to, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. I upload on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!